Matthew 19:7. They say unto him, Why did Moses then command to give a writing of divorcement, and to put her away? 8. He saith unto them, Moses, because of the hardness of your heart, suffered you to put away your wives. But from the beginning it was not so. 9. And I say unto you, whosoever shall put away his wife, except it be for fornication, and shall marry another, committeth adultery, and whoso marrieth her which is put away doth commit adultery. 10. His disciples say unto him, If the case of the man be so with his wife, it is not good to marry. 11. But he said unto them, All men cannot receive this saying, save they to whom it is given. 12. For there are some eunuchs, which were so born from their mother's womb, and there are some eunuchs, which were made eunuchs of men, and there be eunuchs, which have made themselves eunuchs. For the kingdom of heaven's sake, he that is able to receive it, let him receive it. My point, eunuchs, and for the kingdom of heaven's sake are separate. He that is able to receive it, let him receive it. It's talking about marriage. Being castrated is not good, but some back then chose to be. Some were forced. Free will doesn't make it right, and Jesus never says that. And he says you can't marry another and divorce your wife to marry another just because you don't like her, you chose to be with her. If you do, that's sin, which he can forgive, but that's besides the point. But it doesn't say about the wife when she can chose to end marriage, just the husband. Last point, the disciples asked, Is it not good to marry? Or do you have to marry? All men cannot receive this saying, save they to whom it is given. Based on that statement alone, you don't have to marry. And you don't have to be a eunuch not to marry. That's a different point of topic. Jesus telling us about marrige from a back then biblical perspective, which is true today, if used right. And God did allow Moses to allow it then, so it's sin, but until we live under Jesus it's allowed. As Christian, it's better not to divorce for any cause, except fiscal adulatory, which is what Jesus was talking about in that context, unless your wife or husband commits sins, major ones, and don't repent in time. 2 Corinthians 6:14. Be not unequally yoked together with unbelievers, for what fellowship hath righteousness with unrighteousness? And what communion hath light with darkness? Loving God with everything in his commandments means this too. Which leads to another topic, transgender. It says there are eunuchs. From birth not transgender, you're either that a male or female. But next topic, if you're homosexual, male or female, can you still get saved? Yes, you can. Jesus accepts anyone just as they are. Forgive sin, washes you clean, and can change you. Now if you stay homosexual, and you still can be saved as long as you don't reject Jesus for sins and want forgiveness for sins and accept it, you will still be saved. And for any sin, you can be saved by grace. It's still sin though. Matthew 6:24, King James Version. 24. No man can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will hold to the one and despise the other. He cannot serve God and mammon. Jesus' words. So if you serve sin and hate God because of sin, you're not saved by rejecting Jesus for sin. And he means men and women. Everyone. He was addressing everyone, and it's also applied to marriage. Put God first. Loving God with everything that's in the commandments from Jesus and in the 10 commands from God. 1 Thessalonians 5:22-2. 22. Abstain from all appearance of evil. Remarrying a godly divorce, as long as who you marry wasn't getting into the relationship with you inappropriately, entailing the divorce, and you're forgiven to divorce. It's allowed. God will forgive. You cannot serve God in sin. If your wife or husband is unequally yoking you to bad stuff, you can divorce them. Love God, put him first. God forgives you no matter what you have done. Scriptures apply to men and women equally. Word man used for humankind. Both can divorce. Moses' marriage laws, Jesus said, aren't the same to everyone. Things are different. Jesus says, those that are able to receive it, let them receive it. Accordingly, men or women, Marry or don't. Your choice. Forgive sin a choice. That's what Jesus said. In the Jewish language, it would have back then been clear. Everything it pertains to. But if it's sin in the past and God gives forgiveness, maybe the spouse should really pray to see if they should forgive and not divorce. And Moses' punishment is not for us, not from God. One eunuch or persons born deformed and chose not to marry never gives them the right to be homosexual. God can heal them, make them whole, fix, regrow them, or medical process technology could do. But they could marry if done right. Traditionally between man and woman in God's eyes. Male has male code if you're male, and female code if you're female. To either you're male or female. More than just downstairs. Everything. A body fiscally shows. 2. Alternating it is counterfeit and never as good. It's sin. The body is the temple of God. Harming it is sin. Satanic. God lives in us, made in his image. God is a man. Jesus lived on earth, sent from heaven above. God made man in his image. Eve was formed, created from man's Adam's rib. Adam the first man. Eve first woman. Genesis. God is described by Jesus as his father. Jesus as the Son. Man. They are one God. All life, even biological, is male and female biologically code. That can't be swapped. That's who you are. If that code wasn't born, you wouldn't exist on Earth. You are that code. Fiscally. You're only one gender. In God's DNA code that he gives all of us. 3. You can never change gender. Everyone is born a son or daughter of God. You are no accident. God chose you. Who you are decides who you are. Without it, you wouldn't exist. Revelations 22. I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, the first and the last. Mark 10:6. But from the beginning of the creation God made them male and female. 7. For this cause shall a man leave his father and mother, and cleave to his wife. So this clearly states that marriage in Jesus' words are between one man and one woman. That's the way God made us his children from the very beginning. And in Leviticus to Moses, God said homosexuality or multiple partners, fornication, whether a man or woman sinning, is an abomination sin. The Apostle Paul says the same thing in some of his books in the New Testament Bible, as do others in other places in the Bible. Leviticus 18:6. None of you shall approach to any that is near of kin to him, to uncover their nakedness. I am the Lord. The nakedness of thy father, or the nakedness of thy mother, shalt thou not uncover. She is thy mother, thou shalt not uncover her nakedness. The nakedness of thy father's wife shalt thou not uncover. It is thy father's nakedness. The nakedness of thy sister, the daughter of thy father, or daughter of thy mother, whether she be born at home, or born abroad, even their nakedness thou shalt not uncover. The nakedness of thy son's daughter, or of thy daughter's daughter, even their nakedness thou shalt not uncover, for theirs is thine own nakedness. The nakedness of thy father's wife's daughter, begotten of thy father, she is thy sister, thou shalt not uncover her nakedness. Thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of thy father's sister, she is thy father's near kinswoman. Thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of thy mother's sister, for she is thy mother's near kinswoman. Thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of thy father's brother, thou shalt not approach to his wife, she is thine aunt. Thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of thy daughter-in-law, she is thy son's wife. Thou shalt not uncover her nakedness. Thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of thy brother's wife, it is thy brother's nakedness. Thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of a woman and her daughter, neither shalt thou take her son's daughter, or her daughter's daughter, to uncover her nakedness, for they are her near kinswomen. It is wickedness. Neither shalt thou take a wife to her sister, to vex her, to uncover her nakedness, beside the other in her lifetime. Also thou shalt not approach unto a woman to uncover her nakedness, as long as she is put apart for her uncleanness. Moreover thou shalt not lie carnally with thy neighbor's wife, to defile thyself with her. And thou shalt not let any of thy seed pass through the fire to Molech, Neither shalt thou profane the name of thy God. I am the Lord. Verse 23 Thou shalt not lie with mankind, as with womankind. It is abomination. Neither shalt thou lie with any beast to defile thyself therewith. Neither shall any woman stand before a beast to lie down thereto. It is confusion. Reference other the commandments Jesus has said, 1. Thou shalt do no murder, 2. Thou shalt not commit adultery, 3. Thou shalt not steal, 4. Thou shalt not bear false witness, 5. Honor thy father and thy mother, and 6. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. 36 Master, which is the great commandment in the law? 7. Jesus said unto him, Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy mind. This is the first and great commandment. 39 And the second is like unto it, Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. 40 On these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets. 10 And, behold, there was a man which had his hand withered. And they asked him, saying, Is it lawful to heal on the Sabbath days? That they might accuse him. 11 And he said unto them, What man shall there be among you, that shall have one sheep, and if it fall into a pit on the Sabbath day, will he not lay hold on it, and lift it out? 12 How much then is a man better than a sheep? Wherefore it is lawful to do well on the Sabbath days. 13 Then saith he to the man, Stretch forth thine hand. And he stretched it forth, and it was restored whole, like as the other. So 8 Command so far what left don't lie well, don't bear false witness is same thing, don't covet, don't commit adultery, or lusting after someone, coveting someone's wife, said by them of old time, Thou shalt not commit adultery. 28 But I say unto you, that whosoever looketh on a woman to lust after her hath committed adultery with her already in his heart. That is a form of coveting and is like to other forms, like lusting after another man's wife. Coveting wanting something bad is sin in your heart. Coveting making worshipping idols, taking God's name in vain, no other gods before him, is not loving him with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy mind. Those are the commandments. Love is the greatest. So Jesus said not to murder. What about abortion, murdering a baby? It's talked about in Ezekiel. By God himself, Ezekiel 16:21, that thou hast slain my children, and delivered them to cause them to pass through the fire for them. 38 KJV. 38 And I will judge thee, as women that break wedlock and shed blood are judged, and I will give thee blood and fury and jealousy. This is God talking about murdering babies to idols. He will judge those that do. You can be forgiven, but it's still a form of murder. Sin. Thou shalt not kill a person. We can kill animals to eat them, refer to Genesis. And that all it says we can eat fruits, plants, herbs, nuts, other things. Water not as intelligent as us beings. If someone divorces you and it's not for any reason biblical, or for something being bad, sin, God will forgive that. You can move on, remarry, but under grace and God's forgiveness. He will forgive anyone wanting forgiveness. He forgave the woman in adultery and said, Go and sin no more. And fornication, Jesus says, is a sin, and you can divorce for it, and fornication is sin. The same thing for unmarried people, and God says so in books of Moses. 5 books Moses. God says being homosexual man or woman is sin. Fornication sin. Love neighbor as self-love. So hinting fighting, that is not loving. Treating people right as commanded a neighbor, people around you, so that includes family or people you don't know. Other verses, prophets, God said don't fight sin. We wrestle not against flesh and blood but powers. So cast out sin, pray against it. To hate is to want to do evil. Greatest commandment, love or doing right. John 13:34-35 King James Version. KJV 34 A new commandment I give unto you, that ye love one another, as I have loved you, that ye also love one another. 35 By this shall all men know that ye are my disciples, if ye have love one to another. Jesus loves everyone. We should too. One another, that's everyone. This is during the Last Supper. He said you, meaning everyone. And then if we have love, we are his disciples, so we can use the gifts which are for everyone, his disciples, that's us. Love doing right is Jesus, our friend, a gift from him.